Thank you very much.
So welcome everybody to the Ortelius General Meeting, March 7th. I don't have up the doc, but
I have the doc
on the
up.
list.
Today we have on the list a couple things about general outreach. I did put together let's just go through this here. Back here, we got Arvin, we don't have Utkarsh on here. Is Joseph here today?
Not yet.
Oh, Arvin's here. Okay, so as a follow-up to last week's community call, I had I'll just put outreach summary. I had put out a request for help on doing social networking. Arvin stepped up and I added Arvin to the Hootsuite account. So Arvin now can post on the Ortelius Twitter and the Ortelius LinkedIn page.
Administrator for the Discord server. So when Discord breaks, we can blame him.
I can edit the Twitch account to that the pin code vote. So we have to try to initiate a Twitch stream. Then it will just send the link directly to our server.
Okay. I think most of the bots you can use when you go to like the bot website, it'll say login with the Discord server or something like that, or your Google account. Pick the Discord server. I think that's the way most of them are linked.
Yeah, same. I just log in using my Discord account, and it just show all the server in which I was an admin. So it's about the Ortelius, so I directly added it to the Ortelius server.
Awesome.
And also Sasa is using a bot which is pretty cool because it is supporting multiple YouTube channels, and the pin code is supporting only one channel, and it is also not supporting YouTube live stream, so we can play with it.
Yeah, go ahead and set up another channel for that new bot, and then we'll swap them out.
Okay, I will play with it today.
Sounds good.
Utkarsh got us out of the gate by publishing his blog on blockchain. I accepted that pull request. I don't know if it's out there yet. It should be. Let's quickly look.
That's the website repo.
Yeah.
So
I don't see it out there.
Yeah, so the website and the documentation are now on Netlify. So as soon as something gets merged, it will go live.
Okay. Well, I will follow up with you after this call, Steve, to make sure that I did that right then.
Let me see. I don't see it. Utkarsh, where was the pull request?
It's in the Ortelius outreach.
Ortelius. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's in the outreach. So so what we need to do is we need to add that article as a blog to the website.
So what I'll do, Steve, is I will as they come in, I will transfer them over to the main Ortelius repo. Will that work? Or should I put it in the website?
We need to actually put the markdown in the website as a blog.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah. I
can transfer them. I should be able to transfer them over into the.
Well, you have to
I have to put it in the blog directory, so it will be, yes.
Yeah,
I got it.
Yeah, you have to do it.
I understand. I'll take care of that
Cut and paste,
as
basically.
it comes. Yeah, I can bring it over. Okay.
All right, cool.
Tracy. Bring. The website. Oh, okay. Talks. We had some interesting accepted talks. I got accepted to speak at on Ortelius at CDCon. So I was accepted at CDCon to speak about Ortelius and its data gathering. I was also invited to speak, and not necessarily on Ortelius, but I was invited to speak as a keynote for the open source summit that they're having on the 10th, 11th, and 12th. I'll be doing a keynote on the 10th on security. Steve's talk for CDCon was waitlisted, so we'll see if he actually gets invited. And then we still have two talks. So
wait lifted, what does that mean?
It means that some people at the end of the day won't be able to travel. My talk last year was waitlisted, and they ended up putting me on. So they wanted.
Oh, sorry, you're like in a queue, so someone can't make it because they're traveling. Then you talk. You're like a super sub.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Yes. Okay, as a keynote.
Okay, that makes sense. Sorry to interrupt you, Tracy.
That's okay. That's a good question.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was. Are you speaking at KubeCon at all in Europe?
No, I haven't even tried. It's too expensive for us to go over there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the understudy. Waiting for the other speaker to break a leg.
And I'll also be speaking at Swamp Up.
Swamp Up. That sounds like a monster truck event.
It kind of is. It is. It's actually really fun. They do a good job of it. Yeah, so it's JFrog's annual user conference.
Of course, they've got the frogs. They've got the frog theme, so they can really use it. Like we've got the alien theme. We can do cool things. Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. So that's good news. We got some good speaking spots over the course of the next in May.
And I'm doing local stack tomorrow. Local stack meetup for Ortelius. Thank you for the material. I'm going to just add that to. I'm just going to build that into my slide. Yeah. Okay,
and I have not seen any invite or any info on that.
I posted it on the LinkedIn in the company. I did a post. I tried to create an event, but it wouldn't have looked right because it would have looked like we are hosting the event and we're not. So I posted it on our LinkedIn page, and it looks cool.
Add it to the doc. Here's the doc. Would you add it to?
I added it this morning, my time, so that people had a chance.
Yeah, so I just put local staff meetup is tomorrow. Sasha Wharton presenting. If you could just just put it under there. So for that reason, Sasha asked me to put together a slide deck for Ortelius, and I am just going to quickly run through that slide deck so everybody knows it's out there and that we can use it.
Yeah, it's really nice, eh? It's really cool.
Thank you, Sasha, for saying that. Let me share my screen.
It is. I mean, it's really cool. It's exactly what we're doing, right? In a nice summarized way and with awesome graphics.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm going to do view and slideshow. So it's not terribly long, and anybody can use this if you're, presenting someplace. You can obviously use the template. Even though the template, I don't know why it's not working the way it should, but you can copy, pages to get the backgrounds. I've been working on messaging to try to really kind of consolidate what we do, which is really hard. And so far I've come up with this: unlock your supply chain intelligence trapped across siloed containers. I start with explaining how complex software security is with some of these very kind of big deal numbers. 742% of malicious attacks. It's the growth since I think it was 2021. 88% of boards consider cybersecurity just to be a business risk. And this one's really interesting. 65 to 80% of companies are seeking log visibility into application security, which is right in our sweet spot. Now, oftentimes this can morph into a discussion about observability running in a cluster. But as we all know, we're doing this prior to any actual deployment. So we're trying to create this data as pre-deploy as opposed to post-deploy, and be more proactive as opposed to reactive. I pull this idea of trapped software supply chain intelligence into this screen, where I show how each microservice has its own SBOM, CVE versions and inventory, as well as the UI that may be consuming them, and just talk about how the security and DevOps data is trapped across these siloed containers and pipelines. Because a lot of this information is still out there sitting in a pipeline. For example, you don't inside a container track its inventory or its release version. I've been using this graphic. It seems to be helping people understand what we do. We talk about unifying the view of an organization's security profile versus one container at a time, and how we aggregate this critical security and DevOps insights across the organization, bringing in information like CVE information, SBOM information, deployment details, and the registries. So I'm really pushing this idea of you have the data, make it actionable. Centralize all your security and DevOps and SCA data. For anybody who doesn't know, SCA is software composition analysis. It's the kind of stuff that JFrog does, all the scanning. View service to impact. You view service, that's got a typo, I'm glad I'm doing it. View service impact to all consuming logical applications. Does that sound right? View service impact. I would say it would be easier to say view the impact a single service has to all consuming logical applications. That sounds better, right?
Yeah, that does sound better. I mean, I get what you were saying, but it makes
it's
easier
bad.
to understand.
Yeah. View open source package usage across the organization, assign release numbers to logical applications as services change, version microservices, track microservice version and usage across all clusters. And then I have some screenshots that I added. This is an application level SBOM, and I did add the, how do we answer the question, who is using log4j? I quickly explain the pipeline, where all these tools are and where we fit. We fit at the the point before release, where we're registering and cataloging all this information. I've put this architecture image that we've been working on. I don't know if you need to use this, but it's out there. You can always slide it down. And then I added this.
I like that. That's cool. It's like we're using quite cutting edge technology to store data, right? Like using blockchain, right? It's pretty cool. It's a good use case to show it. I think it's great.
I do too. And we could potentially split this in two or this in two and show that we may be eventually, if the Emporius project gets kicked off and we're going to be working with it, we would have a second Arango push, I believe. I added the open source security tools landscape. Oftentimes when we do these kinds of presentations, it's not always good to be completely self-serving. So this, I got to fix that. It's got an arrow right there when I captured that screen. But
you just wanted to emphasize that piece.
Yeah, right. So it shows the phases, the code and pre-build, the build, the post-build, and the publish, and where Ortelius fits into that. And
Yeah, I
these are
think it's
all
great.
these are all
Mm.
open source, so I don't feel bad about pushing any of them. I'm not, obviously Frogbot is JFrog, Maven Central is Sonatype, Persia is JFrog. All of these have a corporate owner at the end of the day, but they're all free to use. They're all open
So,
source, not just
Can I ask a
free.
question? So Ortelius at the end there has gathered all information prior to that, including the published part. Am I understanding that correctly?
You are.
Okay, because I'm listening carefully what you're saying now, because I'm gonna use these slides tomorrow, and want to make sure I use correct sort of wording and description
Yeah.
and where
To
we
be
fit in.
to be completely accurate, we would be here. We would be here. We would be here. We would be here, and we would be here. And
Yeah,
it's
you're in
too
both
confusing.
sides. No,
Yeah.
it's cool. It makes sense. It's almost like the alien is between those two arrows, right? Touching both sides, the post
Yeah.
build and the publish.
It
And it's
just
got
made it too
everything.
confusing. Yeah,
Yeah.
because this slide here shows really that we are, we're interfacing with these tools at the different stages of the pipeline. But just to
Yeah.
make it simple and put us in a category, I put us in the category of cataloging.
Yeah. And I really love the slide deck when I looked at it, because I feel like Ortelius has got a little bit of a different, I don't know, direction at the moment, and we've gone a different direction in a good way. Because I just want to use an example. I was in an interview yesterday, and I was speaking to some guys in Denmark. They're a DevOps company, and I asked them, and I said, how do you extract the information that is locked inside your repos, your versioning and all that? How do you present that to business people? Because there were two people in the interview, which was awesome. One was a tech, like DevOps guy, and the other was a business person. And they were like, that's a really good question. They didn't know how they do that. They didn't actually have an answer. And so I feel like Ortelius is perfectly fitting in that space to help business understand the technology better, because it's presenting this information that is locked, maybe known to the engineers, but it's not known to the business, right? And Ortelius kind of unearths that. Am I on the right direction?
You totally, and that's basically what we are. Initially we talked a lot about tracking the deployments and tracking the drift of the version drift of microservices across all these clusters. But we have since added to once we have that versioning engine, we could then expand upon it. And I think expanding upon it and including all this other kinds of data sets it up to be a central point of data gathering.
Exactly. It's like it knows everything. It's like the AI of all things built and published.
Have any of you played yet with OpenAI Codex?
Yeah. Oh, no, not the Codex.
Codex is their AI developer assisted tool, right?
Okay.
And you can sit there and you can use English-like language, and it will generate code for you. What it does is it goes out and it searches all of the open source GitHub repos for code. So that's how it does it. It has a data lake of code snippets that it can go and pull from, in the same way that Chat GTP or whatever it is can go out and search all of Google and bring back that information. When we think about an organization's profile for security, we don't have any way to do that kind of AI because there's no local place for that data. If Ortelius grew up, it would grow up to be a giant hub of deployed data that we could actually take advantage of and do some more intelligent actions. So, for example, you could use the Ortelius data to go out and say, I want a Helm chart that will deploy, these applications, and it would generate one for you and put together a workflow for you, kind of like Backstage is doing, except it would do it. It would just generate it automatically, or it would place it into a CD events pipeline workflow where it said, okay, your pipeline includes data gathering, and this is where it goes. So there's some interesting things we could do if the data gets out there, but that is down the road. But ultimately, yes, Sasha, that's where we're headed.
Yeah, because I just wanted to say I think it's brilliant because there's such a gap there. Because when I spoke to these guys, every time I ask this question in interviews, people are stumped. They don't actually know how to answer it, right? They don't have the tools.
No, they
There's-
don't
they've-
exist.
They've got a million tools that are giving them tons of information, but the business people aren't getting this information. So they don't
They will
understand.
get it.
Yeah.
They will get it when somebody says, can you give me an application SBOM? And they're doing and it's in a microservices environment, and they want to see an application level data.
Mm,
They want to see the application CVEs, not one single Helm chart or
yeah.
container. Now, if they put it in Artifact Hub and then you put everything in it together, that Artifact Hub is sort of in some way competes with us just for that small piece. But
Yeah.
that's why the relationship with Emporius becomes interesting, because then we have a repo that we're actually interfacing with.
Yeah. That's super cool.
And then we end here. So it's out there. I'll make that little correction on this screen. It has this. It's probably in my white paper that I wrote, which is terrible, but I'll have to check it out. And so it should have everything. And if you're working with this and you want to add your own info, you certainly can. Just add your own.
No, I've only got 30 minutes, so I think your slide deck is perfect.
Great.
And Tracy, that's a Google Sheet, so they can just go ahead and copy the Google Sheet, right?
You can copy the Google Sheet, add and subtract whatever you want. And I am going to, right now, while I think about it, I will share this. I'm going to share this.
I still can't wait to run Ortelius in a massive production enterprise environment.
I know.
Just can't wait.
Silly, yes. Who could I thought I could send this to the group email.
If it's in the Ortelius folder, everybody in the group email already has permissions.
All right, I'll make sure it's in the a folder, but I want to restrict this one so nobody changes it accidentally.
Oh, so yeah, go in, and what you do is go to share.
Yeah, I'm at share. And I'm going to give
And change the restricted. Anyone with the link. Yep.
Viewer.
As a viewer.
Okay.
And just hit done, and you don't have to go any further than that.
Okay. All right, and I'll move it over into the correct directory so everybody can find it. Hey, Simon, I just went through our slide deck. Sorry you missed it, but it is recorded. This is probably something that you can use.
Yes, I'm actually, because you shared it, I think on Monday, or I think you shared in last week with me, and then I doesn't know what to write and what is actually the slide deck is for. So
Sasha's doing a meetup. So anytime anybody may be doing gets invited to do a presentation on Ortelius, this slide deck is for the purpose of, you can use it as it is, or you can use pieces and parts of it.
Okay, so actually this is a boilerplate for rest of the presentation we're actually planning around.
Correct. So you can take some of these slides so that you can somewhere to start. Or the deck as it is pretty complete. It tells a pretty complete story. But if you're doing something else around security and you want to bring in Ortelius at the end, or you want to steal some of these slides that I've added for showing how complex the security puzzle is, you can use them. So it's just a tool.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. Another thing, like Tracy, there's a CDF is actually starting workshops.
I did. I signed up for one to see what was happening with that. Do you know what those workshops are?
It is basically for their open source tools that they actually acquire, like Tecton, Ortelius, all
so we
these
should
tools.
Definitely get ourselves signed up for it.
Yes, absolutely. That is part of the strategy. Like, I think you are also joining the call, me also joining the call next time with the CDF. So if those presentations are ready, then we'll start discussing this idea that we want to host a Ortelius workshop in there.
Yes. Who should we
And
get in
Steve
touch with, Lori?
Yes, absolutely. And Steve and Sasha, you're busy next few months because a lot of things we're actually putting forward to you.
Sounds good.
What must I do? Let me know.
Simon, do you want to follow up with Lori to get Ortelius added to the calendar?
Actually, she added me on the calendar and you also added into the calendar. What email I asked her to put in there?
I would just say, I'm curious about, so I signed up for one of them. Let me see.
Yes,
if I can
that's one is
find-
that one is actually planning workshops.
It's under events. I couldn't find the workshops on the website.
Because this is part of the planning, they haven't available on the website. They discuss it with
Okay.
the ambassadors and then they definitely provide a feedback. So actually they're looking for the title and the abstraction or kind of what sort of workshop they should be organizing. That is
Okay.
This call happening next Wednesday.
Okay. So I think I might have put it on my, let me see, next Wednesday, the 15th. Yeah, CDF workshop committee kickoff.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm on there.
Yeah, so we basically need to pitch in Ortelius content.
Yeah, I will be on that call.
What's the purpose of the workshops? To teach people about your open source project?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And
To show them.
Yes, and on that front, Steve and Sasha, we need your input because we need to pitch this idea next call. What sort of content you think Ortelius can pitch into it? Like a title of the talk, what sort of talks we should pitch in there?
I'll do that. I'll make sure and have that signed for
Okay,
next
good.
Wednesday. I'll get involved next Wednesday to make sure that we're being included in it. That was one when I saw it come through. I was like, I wonder what they're doing. I better know about this. I also we also need to be added to should also get a spot on the CDF what do they call it? Pipeline with TechStrong.
Yes, pipeline.
I'm going to ask you again if you could reach out to Lori and ask her if Ortelius could get a spot on the CDF pipeline with TechStrong group.
Yes, absolutely. I share and I will send a Slack message to her.
Okay. Simon will follow up regarding the TechStrong pipeline panel. Okay.
Let me.
It's usually a panel discussion on different topics. So let's see if we can get ourselves in there. Okay, I'm going to leave Steve with architecture, just a review of what we've done with on the architecture team.
Yeah. So I am working on adding the missing pieces that Tony pointed out for the architecture diagram. So that is coming along. And also on the DevOps side, I think we have most of our CVEs cleaned up. We basically get there's a new CVE that pops up probably every other day that we have to address. So like, yeah, we're now at a D for some reason overnight. And who is it? One of looks like something in yeah, something in Alpine fell over overnight. so a bunch of crypto stuff popped up as CVE. So a lot of this is just a rebuild that we just go ahead and when we rebuild the images that they automatically fix themselves basically. So
I wonder if would it be useful to just schedule a nightly rebuild?
I've thought about that. The only thing is we just end up with lots of Helm charts because every time you rebuild, you end up with a new version, and
Right. Okay.
even though it's not used. So I think once we get the a way to identify and act upon the CVEs as they're coming in, that we can do some automation around it.
Okay.
So I think we'll need like you said, a separate process to look at the Ortelius database saying, oh, we have a CVE now. Was there a fix for it? And let's go ahead and schedule it and automatically schedule it. So that I'll have to open an issue on that front. We kind of have an issue about notifications around CVEs. And that's kind of like the first step. And then the next step would be the automation around that. And then we had a new person join. What's her name? Gunjan, I think. Yeah.
Gunjan, yeah.
So she was looking for something to do, and one of the things that we need to do is add superlinter to the repositories to lint our code base. Over the weekend, I figured out what needs to be done and added that to the issue. So please keep an eye on Discord, see if she needs any help on that front to work with that. It was interesting. We actually, the linters actually found some coding mistakes in our Python code that need to be corrected, and also some best practices in our Docker images. Like it was simple stuff. Like in the Docker image, you can do a run command and say CD to like /app. And the linter actually caught that and said you should use working dir /app instead of a CD and a run command. So little things like that. I cleaned up on one of the repos.
Is that to save image size, right? Because you don't want another layer written.
I don't know why. I think it is just the best practice to use working dir when you run commands, because the working dir, you know, basically says this is, yeah, this is my current working directory. So that's one of the things that I noticed on that front. I'd have to look at the technical reason why it's a best practice, but that's one of the things I did notice.
I can recommend a pre-commit hook. It'll actually take you to the answer. So it'll pick that up in your Docker file and it'll say, go to this. It'll give you the link and it'll take and explain to you. I use it all the time so that I write correct Docker files.
So I added to the issue, I added pre-commit configuration files as well.
Cool.
So there's some configuration we had to do around the Python Black program and Flake 8. Those two are used for formatting and checking formatting.
Your syntax and all that. Yeah, cool.
So I did change the default line length from 88 characters to 200. 88 is just too, makes your programs just too narrow and long. So everybody can turn on word wrap.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so hard to read, right? Because it's all like squashed up in this like little tunnel.
Yeah. So that was one of the configuration things. So that's what we have going on there.
Steve, would you share your screen? Would you bring up the DeployHub team where you have installed Ortelius, and I've added like 6 of you. Everybody who attends the architecture calls on a regular basis got added to it, and just walk through how you have it set up.
So Steve essentially went and supersized his order.
Yeah, let me,
So we
share.
have now a working version of Ortelius running in DeployHub Team, which is our only hosted version of Ortelius. Right now, we don't have a hosted version of Ortelius. I have added, Sasha got added, Arvin got added, Brad McCoy got added, Utkarsh got added. I think I said Arvind. So you all were added, and I sent you an email that said, here's your user ID and password. If you want to get involved in working on this and testing at this level, please just shoot me an email, or Steve, or put it in Discord to say, please add me to the Ortelius, in DeployHub Team. I think that would be the fastest way to do that for now.
Cool.
And the
And-
purpose of this is we're going to drink our own champagne, right? We're going to start really understanding what's going on.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great move, because now you can actually see it working in the wild, right?
Yeah,
the
we've
wild.
been, we've been
Mm.
collecting the data for a while now. So these are all the builds that have been happening. I may go through and clean up some of this just because there's like the website. We used to have a container and track the website and documentation. There's the sample applications. So I think I may go through and give us a clean starting point.
Mm.
But if you look at the versions here,
'Cause it's cool to show on like an event, right? Like tomorrow, I
Yeah.
could show this and show, hey, this is what it would look like if you were building a microservice inside Ortelius, right?
yeah, so this is like one of the main branch of the component item microservice. If we, let me just resort it. We'll pick, oops, take 17, for example. We're gathering all the information about the who built it, where, all that fun stuff. There's some stuff that we just need to add to the TOML file to pick up like the chart repo. Those are like little things. And then our README, this one doesn't have a Swagger. It actually does have Swagger, but it's kind of buried inside of the microservice itself. The Fast API has Swagger. As part of our workflow, I think we can kick out the Swagger dynamically and save it. So that's one of the things I have to look at, and our README and all our fun stuff. And we can see who it's associated to.
So it looks like we don't have an SBOM on that, so we need to start adding SBOMs, right?
It's being collected. I just don't know why it's not showing up.
Okay.
So
the
if we
SBOM
actually,
feature, the SBOM feature is already live in Ortelius,
Yeah,
or being tested.
yeah, exactly. So if we look at the workflow runs, we're looking at comp item, this one. If you look at the actions here, so this is the one that was a couple days ago. So we do our checkout, we set up some environment variables, we log into Quay, we actually do the build of the image. So this is actually building the Docker image of the Python code. And then from there, Arvin added the vulnerability scan to the image and uploading those results over to the security tab. I'll show that in a second. And then we go through and do a Helm command to update our Helm charts. So because this is a microservice, it's the child charts that are getting updated. We commit those back to the repository, so they're picked up by the GitHub pages. We generate the SBOM using SNCC, and then we go ahead and upload the component. So this is actually Ortelius running inside of this workflow. So we have the SBOM. I just don't know why. I have to look to see why it's not getting, what's happening to it if there's an error on the SBOM part. but there's a SBOM that we get.
So I think that,
Steve,
I'm sorry, Ukarsh.
yeah, what I was asking, the component that we are seeing there on the dashboard, right? Those are microservices of the this DeployHub application, right?
They're of Ortelius.
They are of Ortelius.
Yep. And they're shared. So these microservices are actually used by DeployHub and Ortelius at the same time. So this microservice here is utilized by both.
Okay, so basically that is Ortelius in the Ortelius.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Because
Ortelius in the Ortelius.
because when some enterprise is using this Ortelius, right, these components would be their microservices, not the Ortelius ones.
That's one of the things that we have to do is reorganize the domain structure. So right now we have the domain. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you. So the domain is Ortelius SaaS. What we really need to do is do like a global LFX or CDF as the high level, and then the Ortelius project underneath that. So we have shared microservices
Why don't
at
you
a
go
higher
over to,
level.
go it over to domain, so that's clear that you can show that.
So we have our global, and then
No, I mean, go to the domain image, go to the domain screen. There you
this
go.
is the domain screen.
On the blade on
this
the
is-
left.
I think we're looking at components. I'm suggesting you go over to domains and show how the domains are set up.
Okay, I am on that.
There
Let
you
me-
go. Now I see it.
I know it's
I
such
don't-
a
I don't
lag
see
for
it
some
now.
reason. Let me reshare. Okay, so can you
It's all the SBOM data.
So it's something with Zoom today. There's a lag. So we have our global Ortelius domain, and then we have our SaaS, and then in SaaS that's the lowest level. So what I'm saying is under global we need to build out the open source projects and have those be domains as well. So under global we should have a Linux Foundation. And then we may want to have Linux Foundation, and underneath Linux Foundation CDF versus and another one for like CNCF.
Right.
If we want to go to that level.
I think for
then
now,
we'd
I
have,
think it would be good just to do a Linux Foundation and a CDF and then an Ortelius.
yeah, and then the other ones would be like Global Apache Foundation would be another domain that we'd want to think about. That would be at the highest level as well. Would be like Apache, maybe the Eclipse Foundation would be another one. And the reason being is we will bring in actual dependencies from those organizations as well. Not as much on the Apache side, because Apache doesn't really have Docker images that we are consuming, but we are consuming like the Eclipse Foundation is providing us a base image for the JDK, an Eclipse JDK runtime that we use as a Docker image. Other ones are like ChainGuard, some of their images, and Wolfie. So there's some other domains that we need to think about how we need to organize them and kind of lay them out.
We might have an
at that level.
Emporius domain that would be at the same level as Ortelius,
Right.
even though it isn't yet an open source project under the CDF. It is still under us, but we still might just go ahead and give them a spot at the same level.
Right. And we can move things around down the road. It's not a big deal to do.
So if you're interested in starting to become a user to help us, as soon as we get, some of these bugs sorted out, and I'm also going to suggest that maybe and we should put this, we're way over time, but I should probably work on a logo that says Ortelius over here. Oops. Ortelius on the left side, and then we would put powered by DeployHub Team on the right. So people know it's who's hosting it. So those are my thoughts about moving forward with that.
Yeah, so, and I think when we get the new UI sorted out, it'll be, looks like I'm kind of leaning toward the Riot.js as the framework. The main reason is it is component based, based on web components, and it'll allow you to create a web component in any language and bring it into your site. So if you want to write that web component in Python or Node or Rust, you can do that and bring it in. So it gives us some flexibility on that front. So
do we
that's
have
one of
UX design for that?
Yeah.
what was that, Utkarsh?
Do we have UX design for that?
I have not
think some
gotten
person-
anything from the design perspective from Nikta out of Ukraine. So we'll have to see. We'll have to. I'll loop back around with him to see what he's up to, and we may just need to move on if he doesn't have anything.
Steve, when you say testing of Ortelius, how do we go about doing that, or how do you define that? What does it mean to be testing Ortelius? Because we've got a login now. Are we just looking at the
Making sure that the data is there that we expect.
Okay.
And let's say we deploy over to our Azure cluster a version of Ortelius. So even if we do it manually and we deploy over to Azure, we want to make sure that that is recorded accurately in the database. So the right version is pushed over to Azure, and that we're keeping track of what is where. So just kind of making sure all the links in the chain are connected as we move from a commit on a microservice, for example, that's going to trigger a build, a new child subchart update, and then it comes back around as a parent update. And then from there, we need to make sure that that version is, when we deploy it, is recorded accurately in the database, and all the SBOM data and stuff like that.
So that's like that diagram we drew. That process is being correctly followed, right? All that information is coming into Ortelius. Okay, cool.
Yep. And if everybody has just few more seconds, let me find this real quick. Here it is. Let me share my screen. One of the things I've been kind of working on is a kind of like a checklist of what you should have in your whole supply chain, and some instructions on how to set it up and how to verify. So things like, does the repository have a license file? Does it have a README? It's surprising on how these two things are dismissed, especially at corporations. Open source projects have those pretty regularly, but if you go into a project like what you're working with, Sasha, they probably don't have a license file. They probably don't have a README.
Nope. Some of them don't have anything, and if there is a README, it's horrible.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. It hasn't been updated in centuries.
Yeah, and then owner's file, maintainer's file. There's a bunch of like Git files that are needed to kind of like control security. Open source projects should have a governance doc, a contributor doc, who to contact. They should have like a two-factor enabled. We should know where the repository is located, all those fun things. Is Git commit signing turned on? Is a Git signature, which is different than Git signing enabled. All those fun things, repository scans, dependency bots, image scanning, all those things. And there's a bunch that I know I'm missing on this that
It's
we
a
need
lot
to
already.
add to the checklist, but this is kind of the stuff I'm thinking that we should be making sure we have all this information gathered inside of Ortelius. Now, the current version may not support all of this information, like attestation and verifying that stuff. That will probably come in a new version, but we just need to make sure. So if anybody has anything for a checklist, just post it on Discord and I'll add it to the list.
Geez, that is such a great list. Look how much stuff that is. Wow, I didn't know all of those things. Yeah. I've seen
And
a
this
lot
is
of
just this is just the basics, you know.
Yeah, I've seen like most of the time you see maintenance file owners readme and license, right? Especially for open source, like you say. But some of that other stuff people don't have.
And this is some of the things, the basic things, like we don't have it turned on yet in Ortelius is the requirement for commit signing and signatures. Those two things we need to turn on for our repos. Brad turned on 2FA a couple weeks ago. But those type of things are what we need to you know, try to come up with what is, like, not necessarily best practice, but what is your compliance, for lack of a better word, on making sure you have all the pieces in place, because it's
like
easy
due
to forget
diligence?
something.
Is it
Yeah,
like due diligence, basically. You're doing due diligence on your project.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
I just enabled Dependabot this last week. We haven't been using
Yeah.
Dependabot forever. And it's a simple, you know, 5-minute configuration, but we can all already see, whoops, let me go back and reshare. If we go back over to some of the repos, like the one that we had, we'll take a look at this one. I think it has a pull request out there. So like this one, this microservice, we have 2 pull requests where we have to actually bump versions of the version of SQL Alchemy and Pydantic. So these can we can actually implement these. Dependabot version found it. All you have to do is approve it and merge it, and it'll go off and do all the coding changes for you. It's basically really simple coding change, bumping this version to this version. Some of them you have to make sure you have to go and test. Other ones you can kind of assume that they're going to work. Like we went from 147 to 204, and that required a coding change.
That was a breaking change, right?
That was a breaking change for us.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But because when we go forward with the new architecture, I think we have like 16 or 20 microservices that we'll need to keep an eye on all this automation that's happening, that we have to kind of go in and say, yes, I agree with that.
Does that get automatically emailed out, or how does that, how do you get alerted to that? Does it come into a Discord channel or some sort of messaging channel?
Right now it's coming via your GitHub notifications, but we could probably have Arvin figure out how to connect up Discord and GitHub for Dependabot alerts.
I will try it today. I will make a separate channel for it, for like GitHub notifications.
Perfect.
That's
and I think there must be some sort of bot out there that'll allow that'll enable that to happen. I know there's I've been on projects with Slack that do it, so I'm assuming that there's gonna be some sort of Discord thing as well.
Yeah, you can probably find a really amazing in the apps for
it is
something cool.
It is the GitHub bot.
Perfect. Cool.
Oh, we love bots.
Yep. The more stuff done for us, and that's part of that long list, is we want to be able to, make sure that we tell people how to do it, and then we have to have the automation side to verify that they actually did it.
Yeah, exactly. Can you automate a lot of the document generation and those type of things that you've got listed there on your spreadsheet?
I think so. There will be things that we'll need to figure out, like whether two-factor authentication's enabled for the repository. That gets into some of the GitHub command line, I think, to be able to look at some of the RESTful APIs. I'm
assuming you just query the API. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, true. Just query the API. Yeah.
Yep, that's what I'm hoping.
Or like a status. It's there or it's not there, true or false kind of thing, or what?
Exactly.
Yeah, cool.
Can we create a blog post out of that checklist?
Yes. Yes, definitely. I will move that checklist into the Ortelius directory, and I'll let everybody know where it's at on Discord.
Yeah. Otherwise, just create a issue using it.
Yep.
And I will pick it up. Also, the Ortelius meetup group is live now. So like we have to tell everybody to join the group so we can do the sessions.
Cool. All right. Anything else? All right. Excellent. Well, thank you, everybody. Sorry we ran over today. We may want to start moving these to an hour. Well,
Yep.
Yeah, because we're starting to take over the world now. So Ortelius is it's going to version the internet eventually. That's where we're going.
Yeah.
And then they'll take Ortelius and use it for space travel to version, space, whatever they're researching. And
we'll have different versions of things running on Mars that will control.
Elon's going to be phoning us soon for SpaceX. You can feel it. I know it, guys. This is just the beginning.
Tesla will be funding us.
Exactly.
And one day we'll have a user conference in Roswell, New Mexico.
Absolutely. And we can all dress up. I can't wait. I love dressing up.
That would be awesome.
We'll be all running around as aliens.
Exactly. Fantastic. Yeah,
it'd be fun.
exactly.
Simon, it looks like you were having something to say. Do you have a closing thought?
Yes, I think Sasha steal the show.
And everybody, I am going to be sending off a vote for our favorite CDF Ortelius contributor. So please make sure you vote. And then there will be a vote for ambassador. Simon has been nominated, and we nominated Steve for the top CDF contributor. So if you see those votes come through, please take care of it right away. All right.
Make sure try for
first microservice on the moon, Ortelius.
I'm just saying, like, make sure try for the Ortelius or the CDF.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly.
I think we're having, of all of the projects, I think Ortelius is having the most fun right now.
Yeah, I really like where we positioned there. I must say, Tracy.
I know.
It's so nice that position of providing that versioning information. It's so cool. I think that's a massive space.
I do too.
From what I've seen, I think it's great. Cool.
All right, all. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Thanks.